Alright, moving down to the West bracket, the number 1 seed, Twisted Metal 2 Darktooth. And we're not talking about the head version. This is the original vehicle that misses his baby boy against Pit Viper, who might be one of the saddest vehicles in the entire series, never to return again. Boy, you're asking a lot from that car. Mr. Grimm, Twisted Metal 3 Axle, maybe the weakest Axle ever. We'll see how that kind of plays out there. Darkseid with that crazy Twisted Metal 1 ram damage really boost him up the tier list in a lot of people's books. So coming in as a 5 seed there. 2 and 3 Firestarter versus Thumper. Thumper, in my opinion, that's one of the best specials in the entire series if you get a freeze off. Firestarter, same scenario, much weaker results. I just don't like that car. His whole head is exposed to any kind of debris could hit him. Calypso and RC car in a Twisted Metal 4 matchup. One of my most interesting seedings here, number 3, you have Twisted Metal 4 Moon Buggy. Now, I don't know if a lot of people like that car. I think other than Sweet Tooth, that car has one of the best specials in that game with that electric orb attack. Very difficult to get out of, especially against a weak character like Mr. Grimm. You know, 1 or 2 of those could really just end that match right away. You have Trash Man against Outlaw 2. That's a very, very good matchup. And again, Twisted Metal 3 Darkseid coming in as a surprise number 2 there as a boss character himself. Against Crimson Fury, who needed to really make a return to the series, but again, they had other plans for that type of vehicle in the series. But this could be one to watch here as far as an upset alert goes, especially in the West bracket.
You're on to the 1 seed Darktooth, the final boss of Twisted Metal 2. What a monster this guy is in one hell of a fight. I don't think the special or the armor covers how strong this guy is. He probably has like 3 or 4 more times armor than a 5. Against Pit Viper, in all 3 scenarios, Pit Viper is usually graded one of the lowest rated cars of Twisted Metal 1. I mean, this is pretty much simple cut and dry. Darktooth wins in a clean sweep. Here we have the 8 seed, 9 seed, Twisted Metal 1 Mr. Grimm versus Twisted Metal 3 Axle. Now, this is a very contrasting matchup in the sense I think this is the weakest version of Axle. He doesn't really have that ram damage at all in comparison to his Twisted Metal 2 counterpart, who could just run through you and take half your health in a little quick skirmish. Grimm, on the other hand, has weak armor. I mean, horribly, disgustingly weak, but this is a special move. When it touches you, you could just fuck around and do 50% on some of the vehicles in that game. And seeing as Axle's not necessarily it armored up, I mean, a 3 is not bad, but we're talking about a vehicle. I think like you get a couple of those specials and some hit and run tactics. I don't see this one going any other way but towards Grimm. Now, my AI seemed to think that Axle still had an advantage here, but when it comes to these tier lists and things, this version of Grimm I believe ranks a lot higher than Axle, so we're going to give Grimm the win here. Alright guys, this is another tough matchup. I'm not really sure how to kind of go down and equivalent. I mean, you have Darkseid from a game where ram damage is king. It has an atrocious special move. It's just a big giant sponge, and with ram damage, it seems to have an advantage over some of the vehicles in that game, especially considering if you touch Darkseid, you take physical damage. Roadkill in 2, there are a bunch of cars I feel like that are pretty viable, speedy, quick, get around the map pretty well, and Roadkill does just that. The special boomerang move hits, does damage on the way to an opponent, but coming back, it seems to really almost like double that. To me, I'm leaning towards Roadkill just because of it's just a better all-around vehicle versus just being a giant bullet sponge that's hard to handle and has just a weak special move. The AI agreed with me here. Now, most tier lists are kind of all over the place with these 2 characters. For the most part, I think they tend to lean in Darkseid. Well, it was a toss-up, but regardless, At the end of this matchup, Roadkill comes out as the winner. This matchup, we have two of the Flamethrower archetype characters. Twisted Metal 2 Thumper against Firestarter, the flame guy from 3. A car I'm not a big fan of, I'll be honest with you. I mean, he drives around with his whole head exposed to just like shrapnel and things. Twisted Metal 2 Thumper, to me, is one of my favorite vehicles of that game. And it also has one of the most disgustingly broken special moves that the series may has ever seen. This, I don't think, covers how strong that is. You can freeze half of the cast in that game and flame them for the duration of that move and pretty much wipe 60 to 80% of their health bar down. Grim, you may even be able to kill outright. Firestarter, to me, just because of the game engine, this stuff really didn't matter a whole lot. He spends a lot of his time upside down. He's just a weak vehicle to me overall. There's just other better vehicles than him for the most part. Me personally, this goes 10 times out of 10 to Thumper. The AI agreed because Thumper has a little bit more durability, even though they both have 2 armor. I just feel like Thumper is just a stronger car on all sides, especially in the tier list. This dude just wipes the floor with Firestarter, so Thumper with the clean sweep. Twisted Metal 4 matchup here, Calypso and RC car. Now you may be wondering where I'm getting these stats for some of these boss characters from. Well, in the Twisted Metal Wikipedia, someone found an article regarding the bosses, and some of them actually have entries where their stats are recorded. I think this is pretty fair. I would lower his special move to maybe like a 2. I just don't like the laser. I don't think it's that good. It's a very weak car in my opinion. Very stupid boss. But Calypso, in his only entry, goes with, just says, fuck you, give me armor, I'm a big giant machine, I'm coming for your face, and just sacrifices everything else. I don't think this car handles necessarily as a 1. Overall though, this is a pretty easy vote for me. I'm going with Calypso here. AI seem to agree with me, and most tier lists I've seen, Calypso is one of the better options in comparison to an RC car vehicle. In his only entry in the series, they made him a damn fun and a damn interesting car. Calypso moves on to the second round. Alright, look, I know a lot of people may not know what Moonbuggy is, but to me, that was one of the best boss characters of Twisted Metal 4. And other than Sweet Tooth having that super insanely annoying special move, Moonbuggy's is almost on that level, but fair. It only lasts about 7 to 10 seconds, and it definitely doesn't take near the health, but it's such an easy move just to throw out, and you just benefit from it. Now, it does regenerate disgustingly slow. I mean, it takes forever to get a second or third one of those, especially if you're playing like the single player. Twisted Metal 3 Grim, I don't mind him in that game. He's very weak. A lot of people hate the sidecar, but it almost like visually stabilizes the character. The special move, Giant Skull Head, it just is fuck you, pay me, 5-star special. It's a little harder to hit in this game, especially with the erratic movements of that game engine. Taking on a bigger vehicle definitely benefits Grim, and I think that this would be a lot closer of a fight than people would take it. I just think Moonbuggy having the special that it does, where you don't even have to aim this thing, you just press the trigger button and fire, and it just goes and grabs Grim and just pulls him in along for the ride here. For me, that's enough to give this to Moonbuggy. My AI actually said 7 times out of 10 Moonbuggy would win, and personally for the tier list, they're pretty even for the most part, but definitely Buggy gets the win here and advances. This is another really interesting battle. You Twisted Metal 4 Trash Man, who is, out of those like close quarters characters of that game, I think is easily the strongest one of that bunch. You have Twisted Metal 2 Outlaw, again, a very viable, well-rounded vehicle for that game. A smaller, harder target to hit. For me, I'm going Trash Man on this one. I know a lot of people will probably give me shit because they're not fans of Twisted Metal 4 for some reason. All the Twisted Metal 2 characters are perfect, but for the most part, I just think like Outlaw's special is good and it would hit a lot. I just don't see it damaging Trashman enough to really make an impact on that battle. His special is not as good as Slam in 2 in my opinion, but it's close enough to where you can grapple somebody and basically do additional damage with all the missiles and things that come out. Now, the AI said 7 out of 10 times Outlaw 2 wins, and I guess I'm going to take this one to the tier list for the tie break. Outlaw 2 is a good car. Not a lot of people shit on it, but just from what I've seen, Trashman is usually a little higher in these tier lists from like an A tier, flirts with B at times, but overall I think it's a stronger vehicle, and for me that's why it's going to advance to the second round. Final match of the first round West bracket, you have Darkseid, Twisted Metal 3, sub-boss character in Washington. Not a great boss fight, but Crimson Fury from 1 might be one of the fastest vehicles of the entire series. I mean, this thing just flies. It's pretty weak otherwise in a game where ram damage is king. I personally did a playthrough of Twisted Metal 3 with a mod where I could play as Darkseid, and I think this dude might even be higher armor than what's listed here. There were times I played like a total idiot and I just got away with it because he just soaked up so much damage. The special move is essentially just fire starters with a freeze. The AI will kill you outright at times because you'll never be unfrozen until you're dead. It's an okay special. I would argue if it didn't have the freeze, I'd give it like a 2. I mean, I didn't think it was that great, but just that freeze alone gives him such a huge boost in this matchup to where he can just soak up a ton of damage. We're going to get to Car with a very, very weak special move. I mean, to me, I think Darkseid wins this. My AI agreed and said 7 out of 10. This is a matchup. 8 out of 10, Darkseid wins. Now, it's tough to place him in a tier list, but for the most part, Crimson Fury is one of the weaker cars in the early series, so I'm going to give the tier list ranking to Darkseid. On to the second round. I know there's a lot of Mr. Grimm stands out there that say that this guy can do anything, but we're talking about a vehicle in Dark Tooth that I've seen people play mod-wise that they don't even fire the weapon, they just run through everybody, and this does so much. He does so much ram damage that in itself is almost like a 5-star special move. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. The early versions of Grimm, especially in like 1 and 2, they were so weak to that kind of stuff that I don't fathom a scenario to where he beats someone like Darktooth. The size of that character, he can't hide in any side streets or anything. Sweet Tooth or Darktooth can just consistently bombard you with those clown ricochet bombs that he shoots through the subway tunnels. He's a total diabolical piece of garbage character that literally can just play ignorant and win at a very basic level. So for me, I think it's a clean sweep. It's a Darktooth win, and he's advancing to the Sweet 16. Now we're getting to some of these nitty-gritty matchups where it's really tough to dictate who's going to win just from like a personal preference here. I'm going to start with the AI. The reaction it gave me, it gave a 6 to 10 win ratio to Thumper. Pretty much its special weapon is the deciding factor in a matchup like this. Most of the tier lists have these guys, I would say, pretty even, but there are a lot of them that basically place Thumper ahead specifically because of the special weapon. I mean, freezing and special weapons with this guy is an absolute nightmare scenario for especially cars like this with weaker armor. I mean, that's an instance where you get that once and you're down to like 25% health if you're a vehicle like Roadkill. I like both these cars. I mean, personally, I think they're pretty much dead even, but some psycho at Single Track was like, you know what, let's give this guy the same stats as a bunch of other vehicles like Outlaw, Roadkill, and let's just make his special move melt your face completely off and almost be borderline broken. So for me, Thumper advances. This is a heavyweight matchup to me. You've Calypso, Moonbuggy, both from Twisted Metal 4, squaring off head to head. This is brutally about as dead even as it gets. This is one of the few times I could almost say the tier list have them equal. I mean, pretty much every single one I've seen, they're both in the A tier. So let's just kind of move to what the AI kind of gave me. They basically were leaning on Calypso's high armor damage output, could absorb a lot of damage. The AI went with Calypso in most scenarios. For me personally, Moonbuggy is my favorite vehicle to use in Twisted Metal 4. I think its special is balanced in comparison to Sweet Tooth. It's nimble enough it can get around with some of the quicker vehicles, and has a special move that takes zero thought process to use. It just goes out and does damage. The problem with it is, in a matchup like this, you only get like 2 before it regenerates, and it takes a long time for that to happen. Me personally, I would go with Moonbuggy. I just think it's just the easier special move that you're going to guarantee damage. But looking back on a lot of the tier lists and things, being that they're both in A tier with a lot of these, a lot of them had Calypso slightly higher. I thought Moonbuggy would make the final 4, and it hurts me to do this, but Calypso edges him out with the smallest of win margins possible in this tournament so far. For a trip to go to the Sweet 16, you have Trashman Twisted Metal 4 versus Twisted Metal 3's Dark Side. This is a pretty beefy, 2 big vehicle matchup. You have the sub boss against the Trash Man. Let's just start from the AI perspective. Now, this is going to get some criticism, and I'm not sure how the AI comes to these conclusions, but they said 6 out of 10 in head-to-head collisions with these guys, the Trash Man would take the win. Now, I personally, like I said, I got to play Darkside in a modded version of the game. I was sort of underwhelmed by the car's offensive output. I would consider, again, without the freeze, this is a 2-star special best. There's not a lot of ram damage that this guy does. I mean, slight. Trashman is the car that if you're going to beat a guy like this, you have to have something that does a ton of damage output. Trashman's special move, not only can it hit and you can fire other shit at the enemy while you have him in your hold, Trashman can actually land this with his last hit on the compactor, and it'll still give you a full compactor afterwards. He's enough health to soak some of those freeze, flame specials, and I just think in a war of nutrition, for me personally, I have Trashman coming out on top. It's going to take a while to beat this guy down, but Trashman to me at the end of the day gets the 2-fer. Now, it's tough to tier list these guys, but in the end here, Trashman advances, getting an upset over the 2-seed Darkside and going to the Sweet 16. It was full of really intense battles here. Trashman works his way as a 7-seed to the Sweet 16. Calypso is the 6. Thumper goes through the gambit here with some flamethrowers and some roadkills to make his appearance against Darktooth. What a war that's going to be. Come next time, we're going to go to the other side of the bracket and get to the Sweet 16 over there as well.